So for the past few months, we've been working our way through the book of Philippians and sharing thoughts about how that helps us in our understanding of what Jesus is doing in this world and what He's doing in our lives and how our lives can function more in line with His kind of teaching and more in line with the ways that He would want us to live. Come to chapter 4, verses 10 through 14. It says, "But I rejoiced in the Lord greatly that now at last you have revived your concern for me. Indeed, you were concerned before, but you lacked opportunity. Not that I speak from want, for I have learned to be content in whatever circumstances I am. I know how to get along with humble means, and I also know how to live in prosperity. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of being filled and going hungry, both of having abundance and suffering need. I can do all things through Him who strengthens me. Nevertheless, you have done well to share with me in my affliction." So he's got this gift that has come to him from the people in Philippi. And Philippi was, if you remember, the first place that he went to in Macedonia when he left what we call Turkey now, the western end of Turkey. He went up to Macedonia and met with the people in Philippi and then worked his way down into Greece as he was going on what is often called his second missionary journey out of Antioch. And here he's received this gift from the people in Philippi, and he's responding to them and saying thank you for the gift, but also wanting to do a little bit of teaching about contentment in this situation. He says, I've learned to be content in whatever circumstance I find myself. I have a new neighbor. He just moved in about 3 months ago. Somebody that I met just before he moved in. He's a whole lot of fun, but he is one of these people that say it in a really nice, meaning way, is always moving around, always talking about something new, always involved, and always has to have something to keep himself busy. Okay, he acts like he's pumped up on caffeine all the time. I don't think he is at all, but it's just sort of just he's agitated, and I'm not. Okay, and he keeps looking at me and he goes, "How are you so calm?" And he said, "No matter what's going on, you're calm." And I said, "Well, let me tell you about it." I remember driving through the valley from Fresno back to Woodlake when I lived out there. God, that was a long time ago now. In the early 80s, I was pastoring a church in Woodlake. And I might have told you this story before, but it meant a lot to me at the time. It means a lot to me now because I was going through one of those moments of discontent in my life, if you will, where I really wasn't sure that being a pastor was the right thing for me. And if you know my backstory, I've never really wanted to be a pastor, and it just I'm compelled to do it. And I was driving along. My family was in the car. They were all sound asleep, and I was traveling down the road. And I was saying in my head, "God, I've got to get out of this ministry. I've got to do something else. This just driving me nuts." What was driving me nuts was having 4 kids and an extroverted wife when I was a deep introvert, but I didn't understand that at the time. But I was just, I got to get out of it. And it was as if And I have no other way to explain it, as if God started talking to me in my head, because instead of the thoughts being, I could do this and I could do that and I could do that, it became, you could, as if somebody were talking to me. And the voice said, you can go anywhere you want to go. You can choose any job you want that you want to work at. You can move to any state or country in the world, and I will take care of you. And I will take care of your family. There's nothing to worry about. And I'm sitting there, wow, how good is that? But I said, oh, I didn't really want to hear a but. You'll have the same problems there that you have here. And it was like, wow, that's a revelation. Why would I want to go learn a new vocation just to have the same problems? I might as well stick with the one I've got and learn how to do that better. You know, learning how to be content. Paul says later on in this passage, my secret is Jesus. He's my focus. And all is calm with him. He's one of those people that George would look at and say, wow, you're on even keel. How do you do that? You know? Now, I might be delusional. I'm well aware of that. I learned out of the Proverbs years and years ago that man makes plans, and I'm one of those kind of people who makes lists for lots of things. I don't make as many lists as I used to, but I used to make a list every morning when I got up, and I would have 20 things to do. And I knew there was no way I was going to get all 20 of them done, but I just trusted that somehow God would help me get the most important ones done. But the Proverbs say that man makes the plans, God directs the steps. And the more I began to trust in that, the more content I became as I went along in life. That God, this is what I want. And even in our prayer requests, that's really what we're saying is, God, this is what we want, because from our perspective, the best thing for the world, or the best thing for this person, or the best thing for is what we think is the best. And so we're sharing that with you. But as Jesus prayed in the garden, not my will, but yours. And we put our trust that somehow there's a God who cares for us and is wanting to do what is best, even though at times we don't understand that. Man devises the plans, God directs the steps. So I have a deep faith. I've had that for years. Every time I got into an argument with my mother, I would go down to the beach. I was lucky to have lived in Puerto Rico and then in Southern California, and so there was always water nearby. And I would go to the beach because that's where I felt happy. And I would talk to God. I would believe that he was watching out for me. And always to do good. I've never grown up with this attitude that I come outside and I have a flat tire. Oh, what did I do wrong? God's mad at me, or something like that. Or something bad happens to me. God's mad at me and he's punishing me. So none of that ever crossed my mind. It was always, I believe in a God who loves and cares and does good for us.
Amen.
Even though I can't understand it.
Yes.
Okay. And it's more about my understanding than it is about what he does and who he is. And the scriptures, all the way through it, tell me that God wants to do good for us, even though we don't see that happening in our lives. We live in a world that bombards us with all kinds of discontent. Okay. You have to do this to be happy. You have to buy this to be happy. It's one of those adages in marketing where in order to sell something, you have to impose upon people a problem that they have. And so now there's this new product, I just heard it on the radio, that you can get that is an oil for your ear that keeps you from having dry, flaky ears because you wear earbuds all the time.
Oh, that's right.
So now I've got to, if I made it up, I could have a product to sell to people because they would buy it. They would say, oh, is that what's wrong with my ears? And they would start to buy it. The power of suggestion. You've got a problem. I've got the solution. And that's marketing. And we live in a world of that kind of marketing, bombarding us continuously, giving us, even on a religious side, conflicting choices of what we should believe and not believe. I'm glad I settled on Jesus 56 years ago when I ran into a pastor who was different than all other pastors I'd ever seen before. And I said, what's different about you? And he said, well, I don't know what's different about me, but let me tell you about Jesus. And it made all the difference in the world. The one thing I can say for sure is that I'm content with what I have and who I am. It wasn't always that way. It's been a growing challenge. I struggled with my ministry, as I was saying, not for me. God just kept bringing me back into it. Struggled with my marriage because we are, if you take any personality test, we are total opposites. Okay, if I'm over here, she's way over here. We took one test, I can remember one time, and her graph, and this is over exaggerating, but it was pretty close to this. It was a 5-point graph, and her graph was a great big W. And mine was a great big M. It's like, okay, let's figure this out because we are very different people. I've struggled with where to live. That adage that the other man's grass is always greener. I've struggled with money. I was talking about that the last couple of weeks. I just love to think about how to get ahead and how to do this. And I was one of those people that every time that somebody mailed into the mail, and this used to be a continuous flow of junk mail, was some other kind of get-rich scheme, and I didn't follow them, but I wanted to read up on them. I wanted to find out what they were saying, and it was interesting. Out of all the things that I learned from that, there was one truth that may or may not be true that came out of it, and that was devote your whole life to making more money, and you'll make more money. You ruin everything else in your life, but you'll make more money. You put that focus into your life, you'll get there. But that's not a good focus. Okay. My contentment is Jesus. And it's a learned state of mind. It's an act of my will. It's a choice that I make, wanting to be content and not longing to have something that someone else has just because they have it and I don't. It comes from minimizing what I think I need. Telling myself, I have enough. Life is good. I should be happy. This is what God has supplied for me at this moment in my life. Ecclesiastes, Solomon said, eat, drink, and find happiness in the lot that God has given you. Your lot in life is, this is what you got. Don't be looking somewhere else. Be happy with what you got. That doesn't mean we can't pray for something else. It doesn't mean we can't ask God to help us get out of this lot and move on. But it does say we need to concentrate on appreciating what we have here. I've used this story before, but it to me it's a big one. I have a friend who he just passed away, way too young as far as I was concerned. But he was consumed with his father's wealth that he inherited half of, and he and his brother went through major struggles trying to get along with each other because of this money and who cheated who and all those kinds of things. And he would go down to the Camaldolese Monastery, which is just south of Big Sur. Beautiful little place if you've never been there. Lucia is a little hotel and restaurant right on the cliff looking out over the ocean. And just after that, you can drive up to this beautiful monastery that's been there for years. And they have little retreat rooms where you can go, and it was, I don't remember, it was $15 a night the last time I was there. And they brought you soup that pretty much flavored water. There wasn't a lot of substance to it, so I ate most of my meals down at the little diner in Lucia. But you could spend this time in this room. And my friend went up there often, and he was talking with one of the brothers who was involved in the monastery. And the brother finally said to him, "You're never going to find peace here if you don't find it at home. If you find it at home, you'll enhance it here. But don't come here expecting to find peace. Find peace in your life. Become content." So stop longing to have more just because other people have more. My oldest son has a whole lot more than I do. Bless him, Lord. Any of us in our family can't even imagine what he has. But I'm not sure he's always happy. You know, he wishes he had extra money at the end of the month rather than extra debt at the end of the month. You know, it's one of those kinds of wealth that things are out of whack and not as content as you would think he should be in that kind of situation. Believe that God is providing for you at this moment, because we can't change our circumstances. You know, I don't know how many times I've looked at things in my life where I've said, I want to change that. And I have really worked hard at trying to change it, and it didn't change. You know, the change came when I said, God, make me a different person. Make me think about things differently. And then change came because I became more content, and I was then able to move from that contentment and do more things for other people. And we can try to find that better house or more money or more friends or the right kind of friends or any of those kinds of things. But when all is said and done, the only control we truly have is on what choices we make. So it's that question, how do you respond to this? How do you choose to look at your circumstances and see them differently maybe? Will you think that God has dealt you a bum deal? Or will you trust that he's a loving Father in heaven and has given you everything you need to be content and blessed at this moment in time? That's what Paul said. Doesn't matter whether I have a lot or a little. Doesn't matter whether I'm suffering or I'm free. It doesn't matter where I am. I'm content because I'm with Jesus. Just a state of trust that Jesus will always come through and bring to me what is best. I'll always have the strength to plow through the difficult times which come my way, and I will know that whatever solution is the result, God will work out good things, His good, through my actions. That's my contentment. That's where I put my trust, in the secret, if you will, of Jesus. Temptations are still there. They want to lead me astray from my faith and my trust and try to get me to go back to trusting that somehow the things of the world are going to make my life happy. But contentment, to me, always comes when I choose to be happy in the midst of my lot, what God has given me, to trust that Jesus knows best for all that goes on. So with that in mind, let's turn to hymn number